Dabo's best team, maybe they didn't win it all. If you know, you know. And if you don't, you're about to find out. I'm glad you're hanging out with me. Welcome to the show. I'm Brian. I like talking Clemson football. And right now, I'm just trying to get to August the 30th when Clemson plays LSU 7:30 on a Saturday night. It's going to be a crazy time in the Valley. If you like talking Clemson football here in late May or any time of the year, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free, and I hope you'll pass along to your buddies, your friends who likes to talk Clemson football as well as college football. So let's dive right in. In the Dabo Swinney era, 2016 and 2018 lives in infamy. We can see the pass from Deshaun Watson out to Hunter Renfrow, the illegal pick, if you ask an Alabama fan. And sure, if I was an Alabama fan, I'd like to say that as well. But that plays, well, they run it all the time. I'm talking about everybody does. So it was just good strategy. Clemson wins a national championship, the first time since 1981, way back in 1981. Then a few years later, I really don't have to dive into Trevor Lawrence winning a national championship as a freshman, taking over the job earlier in the season from Kelly Bryant, a guy who had just gotten to the college football playoff the year prior. And everyone thinks about that. But if you're a Clemson fan, you know there was a team. There was a team that accomplished a lot. A team that was undefeated going into the national championship game. And they lost by 5 points. And it took Nick Saban, it took everything within him, within his coaching team, within his staff, his coaching team. That didn't make sense. His staff to pull out the win. Yes, I'm talking about the 2015 Clemson Tigers. That's right. So if you're diving into this particular team, maybe you're a new fan. And I run into young fans all the time, young Clemson fans who were, 5 years old. They were 5 years old when this 2015 team did what they did. Then I run into people who's a little older, but maybe they were not keeping up with football then, but they definitely remember the Trevor Lawrence national championship. Maybe you're just learning about Clemson, but I'm going to tell you this. I know it's been about 10 years or so since that national championship run, and they lost the game in 2015. But by the time I get done here, I'm not going to guarantee you that it is Dabo's best team he had out of the three, two winning a national championship and the other one not winning it being the 2015 team. But by the time I get done, just going over some stats, going over some scores, going into that game with Alabama and how it ended, you're going to walk away going, maybe they're at least in the argument of being the best team. They're definitely the argument of the best team that didn't win it, but maybe that was one of his best teams, even out of the three. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's talk about the 2015 season. Clemson started off the season in 2015 against Wofford. And you're like, wow, big whoop-de-doo. Wofford? Why should we care about this or the next game against Appalachian State? Well, to be quite frank, you shouldn't. You shouldn't care about it whatsoever. It's two boring games. But the big deal about the beginning of the season was this was Deshaun Watson's show now. You're like, show? What do you mean? Well, the year before, he was a true freshman, and he sat behind Cole Stout. Now, I'm not going to rip Cole Stout like a lot of other people has ripped him. I think Cole Stout's quarterback ability, his ability to throw the ball and his abilities just to play QB was different than what Tony and Jeff, and up to that point, Tony and Jeff was not running the show. It was Chad Morris. Tony and Jeff actually got a lot out of Stout in his very last game. We'll get to that in a second. I know I'm going in circles, but hey, we have time before August 30th. Let's just hang out. But everyone wanted to see Deshaun Watson in 2014. They opened up the season against Georgia. In Death, no, it was not in Death Valley. It was in Athens. Clemson lost 45-21. Deshaun Watson came in on his very first drive, was 2 of 2, and threw a touchdown that absolutely shocked the crap out of Georgia. But to Clemson's dismay and Georgia's dismay, Deshaun Watson, they kind of capped him. Stout went in, and as I said, they lost that game 45-21. They lost to number 1 Florida State 23-17. Watson actually went in and played that game through for 266 yards. But they would bounce back and forth between Watson and Stout until Watson got hurt at Georgia Tech on November the 15th. Now, if you don't remember this, Watson actually had like a tore ACL. Now, it was some type of knee tear. I'm pretty sure it was an ACL, but they ended up taping him up and putting him in against South Carolina. He threw for 269, and Clemson won that game 35-17. They went in to play Oklahoma. Stout started the game because Watson was going to go ahead and have surgery. And this is where, if my memory serves me correct, Jeff and Tony was actually the offensive coordinators for this game. Chad Morris, he had adiosed. He was going to, what school was it he went to? Was it Arkansas? Forgive me for getting that wrong if I'm wrong. Stout threw for 319, and they beat Oklahoma 40-6. Yeah, I want to say that was the Russell Athletic Bowl. Okay, so let's go back to 2015. We knew that Deshaun Watson was going to play the game. We knew he was going to be the quarterback. We knew he was going to get all the snaps. There was no one who was pushing this guy out of the way. This guy was the biggest quarterback recruit that even with Taj being there a few years before that, this guy was even bigger. So he comes in and he has Wofford. He has Appalachian State right off the bat. He beats them, no problem. Clemson puts up over 40 points in each of those games, allows only 10 points each. Then they play at Louisville. Now, this is a weird time for Louisville because there was a guy named Lamar Jackson who was just coming on the scene, but he hadn't officially arrived yet. Clemson won that game 20-17. Then the infamous game with Notre Dame. It was October the 3rd. We remember the rain. We remember the storm. It was crazy. We remember the ending with the great stop with Ben Boulware. Later on admitting he did not flip. He actually slipped and it made him flip. And everybody remembers that. But I think that's really funny. But Clemson wins that game 24-22. First time Clemson and Notre Dame had played in many, many years. In fact, since the late 70s. You go into the next game, you play Georgia Tech. This is right before the wheels really started falling off for Georgia Tech. They beat Georgia Tech 43-24. Then you play Boston College. Watson threw for 420 yards in that game. You go at Miami. Miami had fell apart. This was Miami probably at their worst. Clemson wins the game 58-0. Watson only throws for 143 yards, but I remember Kelly Bryant came in and he ran like a 50 or 60 yard touchdown against Miami. I think that's when Golden ended up getting fired. He may have finished out the season, but that was the season he was no longer the coach of Miami. Next up, Clemson went to NC State. Now, NC State, especially at this time, was starting to get some things together. Dave Doran, probably this time frame is probably some of his better teams that he's seen. I don't have their official record for that year in front of me, but that's when they really started playing Clemson more and more aggressively. Even when Clemson had a really good team, they were playing quite well. Clemson wins that game 56-41 in Raleigh. Watson threw for 383. Let's get to the next game. Florida State. Yes, this is Florida State just a few years removed from the national championship with Jameis Winston, famous Jameis. And you're starting to see the digression of Jimbo Fisher a little bit. Clemson beat Florida State 23-13. You move into the next game, you have Clemson beating Syracuse 37-27. Now, you see even there, Syracuse was still giving them problems. Watson threw for 368 in that game. Let's go on down to Wake Forest. Clemson beat Wake Forest 33-13. Watson, 343 yards. South Carolina, Clemson beat them 37-32. Actually, they played Clemson quite well. Watson threw for 279. I know I'm talking about Watson a lot, but you probably know why. But then the next game was the ACC championship. Now, North Carolina, if my memory serves me correct, they were ranked top 10 at this time. Probably the last really good North Carolina team. I know they had Drake May, like 3 years ago. I'm not talking about Drake May and some individual players. I'm talking about the team as a whole. This was probably the last good team as a whole that they had was back at this time. Clemson beat them 45-37. It was a close game. Watson threw for 289. Some other names that you'll recognize during this time, since I've just been talking about Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman was the running back at this time. You had guys like Ray McLeod. You had Jordan Leggett. You had Deion Kane. You had Sharon Peake. You had Renfro. You had Hopper. You had Artavis Scott. So there were some really good players that was still on the team, and that goes without saying during this entire run. But let's go down to the first round of the college football playoff. Clemson was in it, and this was the first college football playoff for Clemson. They go in. It was a big deal. And so Clemson goes in, and they have to play Oklahoma. Now, remember, the year before, they played Oklahoma in the Russell Athletic Bowl. Watson didn't play, as I said. He had surgery on his knee. Cole Stout came in with the two new offensive coordinators, and, they absolutely destroyed Oklahoma. So they're playing Oklahoma in this first round of the playoff, and everyone is thinking Oklahoma is going to do what Oklahoma does to most teams. They're just going to beat Clemson. This has been a cute little run Clemson's had. We believe that, Oklahoma's going to win this game. Clemson came out and beat Oklahoma 37-17. And if my memory serves me correct, that was Baker Mayfield on the sidelines. Not on the sidelines, on the field for Oklahoma. Watson threw for 187. Gallman rushed for 150. Scott had 63 yards receiving. And everyone was shocked. Then Clemson comes into the game against Alabama undefeated. Yeah, undefeated. They're 14-0. They play Alabama. It was a great back and forth game. There were some injuries here. There were some injuries there. We remember, I believe it was Mackenzie Alexander that got hurt. Correct me if I'm wrong. He got hurt in the game, ended up leading to busted coverage. Alabama took advantage of a tight end running absolutely free. That was one. That was one touchdown that I think wouldn't have happened, but it did. We can't forget the onside kick. That was the one that showed you, or showed all of us, that Alabama knew they were about to lose the game. So they're going to have to start doing onside kicks just at odd moments. That was a very odd moment for them to do the onside kick. They did get it. And even with all of that, Clemson loses only by 5 points to Alabama. And Watson threw for 405 yards. He rushed. He was the leading rusher for the game. He had 73 on the ground. Everyone knew this guy was the man. Now, and they knew this team was for real. Let's pause here and let's look at a couple of stats right now. And I have a bunch of you in here right now, have the comment section turned off right now just so I can focus. But I'm not ignoring you. I'll get in there in just a second. Hey, if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe. If you're not new here, but you haven't subscribed, I hope you will It is free, and I do appreciate it. It helps the channel. Hope you'll hit the thumbs up. It helps, it helps people find the video. If you want them to find this video, hope you'll hit the thumbs up. Okay, let's go into some career stats here for Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, okay? Deshaun Watson, in his freshman season, that was 2014. Remember, he was splitting time with Cole Stout. He threw for 1,466 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Remember, he did get injured later on in the year. He was sacked 8 times. The 2016, I'm skipping the 2015 season on purpose. The 2016 season, the year he won the national championship, he threw the ball 579 times. He completed 388 of them for 4,593 yards, 41 touchdowns. He threw 17 interceptions. He was sacked 17 times. In 2016, he also rushed 165 times for 629 yards and 9 touchdowns. Now remember, that's 2016 season. That's the year they won the national championship. In the 2015 season I've been talking about, Dabo's possibly his best team, and they didn't win the national championship. Arguably, one of the best teams. That we know it's one of the best teams. Okay, let's go ahead and say this. I'm going to reword it here at about the 15-minute mark and tell you it may be my favorite team, even though the other two won the national championships, because they just came out of the Russell Athletic Bowl, and we can look back in time and say, oh, yeah, we saw it. Sure, okay, maybe you did see it. But the Russell Athletic Bowl, I mean, yeah, anyway. In the 2015 season, when they made it to their first championship since 1981, but they lost, he threw the ball 491 times. Now, remember, in 2016, when he won it all, he threw it 579 times. Some of you are going, Brian, we're bad at math. I'll help you here. He threw the ball 88 more times in 2016 than he did in 2015. He had 4,106 yards, or 4,104 yards, excuse me, of passing, 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So he threw the ball 88 more times in 2016 than he did in 2015. And he threw 4 more interceptions. He threw 6 more touchdowns in 16 with those 88 extra passes. He threw for, 489 more yards because of those extra 88 passes. They were throwing a lot then. I mean, they threw the ball a lot, and they amassed a lot of yardage. They would run it. We know that they would run it. I'm not taking away from that. But let's look at Trevor Lawrence's career stats, okay? And we're just trying to look at 2015 and how good that Clemson team was. And I'm going to get into more team-centric details here, but I focused a lot on Deshaun Watson in that year because he was unbelievable. I mean, he was unbelievable. Anyway, 2018, Trevor Lawrence wins a national championship. He's splitting time with Kelly Bryant early on. We know what happened there. In his national championship year, he threw for 3,280 yards, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That was off of 397 attempts. In 2019, he threw for 3,665 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That was off of 407 attempts. In 2020, let's never talk about that year again. He threw for 3,153 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and that was on 334 attempts. Deshaun Watson was throwing the football more than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, let's exclude the year he split time and was injured, but he split time with Cole Stout. In 2015, he threw for 491 passes. He threw for 579. He threw 579 passes in 2016. Okay. Trevor Lawrence, the most he threw in a season was 407 passes. So things changed there. Their approach changed there. Now, of course, they had ETN. They could run the ball. It was incredible. It was wonderful. Why wouldn't you run that guy? It's not like you would stop running him against, say, I don't know, LSU in the national championship. That'd never happen. But if you look at these stats, you look at Deshaun Watson's year in 2015. I mean, it's just remarkable. Let's talk about other things than Deshaun Watson, because I know I spent a lot of time talking about him. Good grief. One of my here we go. Here's some random stats about the 2015 team. Okay. Now, if you go to different sources may have them ranked a little differently as far as like strength of schedule. One particular strength of schedule had Clemson ranked number 47. Number 47 strength of schedule in 2015. But here's who Clemson beat in that 2015 season that was ranked. They beat Notre Dame, who was ranked number 6 at the time. They beat number 16 Florida State. They beat number 8 North Carolina in the ACC championship. Okay, now I know the playoff doesn't count, but the teams they were playing against were pretty doggone stout, and that Alabama team was just unbelievable, and they still almost lost to Clemson. So that was a pretty good showing against who they played and how they handled business, took care of business. And it kind of goes back to a video I did last week where I talked about the key to winning it all for Clemson is they have to get back to winning the big game. Here, if you look through here, Clemson was, when they played a big team, they beat them. And that's how they became respected. That's how the analysts who didn't even want to admit that Clemson was actually that good had to admit it, because the team they picked to beat Clemson would beat them. So that's where we have to get back to. And you can go watch my video where I talk about that. Clemson had some pretty good numbers nationally, but they were ranked second nationally for total offense, 514 yards per game in 2015. Defensively, they were ranked number 24 in allowing 21 points per game. So their defense was not perfect. It was not perfect. They allowed about 313 yards per game. They allowed 187 in the air, 125 on the ground. Shoot, this year in Clemson football, if we could have allowed just that in a few of the games that we lost, we would have won them. Just to give you some perspective. That year, Dabo ended up being named the ACC Coach of the Year, the Paul Bear Bryant Award winner, Home Depot Coach of the Year, Walter Camp Coach of the Year, AP Coach of the Year, AFCA Coach of the Year. And this is where things really, really became interesting for the Tigers. But the thing that you have to look at there is that Clemson was not afraid of the big teams. They were not afraid of the big teams. They were not afraid to go in and do what they did. And when you look at some of the other teams, or some of the other rankings for the 2016 and the 2018 season versus this 2015 team. Now, the 2016 team did some pretty doggone good things. They faced several ranked teams in 2016. This is the one that won the national championship with Watson. They beat Louisville. They were ranked number 3 at the time. I mean, Lamar Jackson was just racking up yards after yards after yards after yards after yards, came in and played Clemson. It was tough. Clemson wins the game. We remember that great stop on fourth down. Let's talk about at the end of the game. Let's talk about Florida State. Clemson beat Florida State 37-34. Florida State still had some fight in them. They were number 12 in the country at the time. When you think about Virginia Tech now, you really don't think about a great football team. Virginia Tech made it to the ACC championship that year. They were tough to play. Clemson won only by 7 points, believe it or not. So if we go back over this, in 2016, Clemson beat Louisville, ranked number 3 at the time, by only 6 points, but they won. They played Florida State, ranked number 12. They beat them only by 3 points, but they won. This 2016 team, they played Virginia Tech, only won by 7 points in the ACC championship. And then the 16 team, we know what happened from there. They went in, played Ohio State in the first round, played in the Fiesta Bowl, won 31-0. No one saw that coming. I don't care how much you love Clemson, unless you're the person who always says Clemson's going to win this game 31-0. And then one day you got lucky and it was like a unicorn getting struck by lightning, attacked by a shark, all while winning the lottery. Unless you're that person, no one saw that coming. Alabama, Clemson plays Alabama, wins, as I talked about, the infamous play to Hunter Renfrow. They win 35-31. That team had about 504 yards total offense per game. They were ranked 14th nationally for points per game. 39 points per game, believe it or not. They were ranked number 10 for points allowed per game. They allowed 311 yards per game. 181 on the ground, 129 on the ground, 181 in the air. Let's go to the 2018 team who won the national championship. Oh, by the way, remember the 2016 team who won the national championship, they lost to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh put up over 500 yards of total offense on them. So sometimes when we're talking about, Clemson teams from the past who did really, really well, we tend to forget reality, what happened there. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to give you another stats that's going to kind of freak you out. That 2015 team, they beat Louisville by 3 points. All right. Louisville was like an 8-win team that year. They beat Notre Dame, who was number 6 at the time, by 2 points. And for the rest of the season, they won by 10 points or more, except for a few games. South Carolina, they only won by 5. Let me see. Yeah. After that Notre Dame game, the closest game was the South Carolina game. 5 points. 5 points was the difference. Clemson winning that ball game. If you go to the 2016 team, the team who won the national championship, you need to remember that Troy, in the second game of the year, Troy came to Clemson, and Clemson only beat them by 6 points. A lot of people forgets that. A lot of people forgets that in the very first game of the year, they played at Auburn and won only by 6 points. That was not a Cam Newton-led Auburn team. It wasn't a bad Auburn team, but it was not a Cam Newton-led Auburn team. When Clemson played Louisville, they won by 6 points. When they played NC State, remember NC State lined up for the field goal, shanked the ball, went to overtime. Clemson beats NC State. Could have lost that game. Florida State was only a 3-point win. Of course, Pittsburgh beat Clemson by 1 point. Now, Watson threw for 580 in that game. Mike Williams had 202 receiving yards. And then, of course, Virginia Tech, a 7-point difference with Clemson winning the ACC championship. But if you look at that Ohio State game, 31-0, no one seen that coming. No one. And then, of course, winning the national championship against Alabama. Honestly, if you look at that 2015 team, there is probably more of an argument if you just looked at pure stats and how close a lot of these games were in 2016. If I ask you and you didn't know who won the national championship, you'd say the 2015 team. Most likely you would. Let's go to that 2018 team. Now, of course, they were perfect. They were undefeated, finished out, winning the national championship. Their second game of the year, they played against Texas A&M. Kelly Bryant was running the show there. We know the great pass that Lawrence threw to T. Higgins, but don't forget that Kelly Bryant threw for 205, rushed for 54, and he had some great moments in that game. Clemson only won that game by 2 points. Clemson played Syracuse later on that year, or in September, only won by 4 points. And what's interesting is that after the game where they beat Syracuse only by 4 points, that's where Lawrence got hurt. Kelly says, I'm transferring. He's no longer on the team. Bryce comes in. Chase Bryce, he leads the team back to victory. And they win. They win. Clemson wins that game. That's an infamous game. After that game, here's the scores: 63-3, 41-7, 59-10, 77-16, 27-7, 35-6, 56-35, 42-10 in the ACC championship over Pittsburgh. Of course, winning the first round against Notre Dame, 30-3. And who can forget the beatdown of Alabama in the national championship? When you look at that 2018 team, you go hands down, especially after week, 5 against Syracuse, where Lawrence got hurt and everybody was in the high emotions of Kelly leaving and blah, blah, blah. After that, it made sense what happened in the playoff. But go back and look at 16 and 15. Look at what happened in the regular season. And I'm telling you, it's not straining the gnat here. It's not trying too hard. You could definitely argue that if any of the three teams should have won a national championship, obviously 18. But 15 definitely could have done it, honestly, more than the 16 team that did. There were some really good players on both of those teams, some players that, and for me, I think it was incredible who was able to play in both national championship games and win it. And in that 3-year period between Watson and Lawrence, because there was a year between them, that was incredible. Of course, there was freshmen on the first team, that went in 15 to win it in 16 and win it in 18 and still be part of that team in 15, probably as a freshman or a sophomore. I mean, that would have been amazing. But I'm telling you, it is not too far-fetched to argue, or at least consider, that the 2015 team could definitely be, I won't say Dabo's best team, but better than the one that won the national championship in 16. I'll let you argue over that one. Get into the comment section. What up, Brian? Old Gamecock here. Love your passion and channel. My son graduated Clemson on academic, so you know that hate is hate, but not until last game of season. Take care. Good to see you, Eddie Blackburn. Good to see you, my friend. You guys are going to be really good this year. Oh, I hope so. There's a lot of expectations, but expectation is a compliment because people's looking at your coaching staff and most of all your players and going, hey, you have a lot of the right pieces. You have the schedule in your favor. The big games a lot of them are at home. You're supposed to win these games. You're supposed to make a deep run in the college football playoffs. So some people don't like expectations, but I think it's a compliment, but I appreciate it. Will, man, good to see you, man. Love from Florida. Roger Parks, my old buddy. Hey, bro, good to see you, man. Thanks for supporting the channel. See the symbol beside your name. You're always supporting on a monthly basis. Thank you for helping out the channel. I still think the best team was 2018. Overall, yeah. When you get to 15 and 16 and you start looking at the stats and you look at how games were won, it raises some good questions. We got the best team. We'll be at number 1 soon. Country Road, you believing, man. You are believing. All I'm going to say is we should be good this year. I'm not going to predict a national championship. Clemson would have to prove a lot to me in the season before I would start saying national championship, but they should be good this year. They should be good. If Trevor has a son, go ahead and sign him at birth, Tiger Tom. I hear it. I hear you, man. Coordinators changed. Talent level had started changing by 19. 19 was a good team, but they didn't have the horses to run with LSU. Go back and watch that game, my friend. I'm just telling you. LSU was unbelievable. I will never argue that LSU team was incredible. The guys that were standing on the sideline for the Clemson Tigers, they're pretty doggone good. Clemson just got outcoached there. And I still think back to when Tony used the term we forsook the run. It's like, how do you do that with Travis Etienne on your team? Anyway, it is what it is. LSU won a national championship. I'm not bitter. Same with D. Watson. I'm worried about our punting situation. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be all right. Hopefully that won't be the thing that bites us in the butt sometime. 2018, Bama was supposed to be the very best team of all time and got smoked. That's my decider. Plus, that defense was better than 15. I can definitely agree with that. But it's funny how after Clemson beat the crap out of them, then the analysts from the big network started going, well, there was whispers that Alabama's defense was not that good. What? That's not what y'all said for like 20 weeks in the season. I don't want to hear that. Not letting you buy with that one. The one thing about modern history, the present, is we can record you and play the literal audio-visual receipts of what you said for months. You can't get out of that. I always found that so funny that they would do that crap. Get that onside kick, and it's 3 titles. You're 100% right. If the field goal kicker from NC State hadn't missed the field goal, we might not have won that natty. You're 100% right. You mean 16? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, 16. Yeah, definitely. I'm telling you, you go and you look at 16, Tiger Tom, and you see how close Troy played with Clemson. Troy. Not Ohio State, not Notre Dame, not fill in the blank, some big name team. Troy. Not good. Not good. I'm telling you, look at that 15 team. It's more believable that they won the national championship than 16. All right, folks, tell me who you think. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and say this. Let's reframe this. Between the 15 and 16 team, I know won the national championship and results is all that matters. I get that argument. I can argue that till I'm blue in the face because it's not really that tough. Go pull up the stats. Go pull up the schedule. Pull up how Clemson played versus their competition in 15 versus 16. And tell me, it's more believable the 15 team would have won the national championship than 16. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Leave it in the comments section. Better yet, pass this video along to all your friends who like to talk Clemson football, even the people who hates Clemson, and you just want to troll them. And I'll do it for you. Send it over to them. I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. The channel is growing, trying to get it to 10,000 subscribers. I'm over 7,500 subscribers in August. My channel will turn 3 years old. Yeah, 3 years old. It's crazy. And so I do appreciate everyone who's sharing the channel and hitting the thumbs up. The thumbs up. It's definitely helping. Y'all take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.